I always believed that friendship in church was a safe harbor, a place where I could be myself, without masks. But everything changed in an instant. I never imagined that my world would fall apart upon discovering what a friend, whom I considered a sister, really thought of me. For years, I was there, always willing to help. I was the one present at every event, the one who organized the meetings, the one standing by during difficult times. The smell of fresh coffee in the morning, the laughter during services, and even the tears we shed together in prayer. In those moments, I felt we were family. But on an ordinary day, something broke. I didn't know that the vulnerability I offered could turn against me. It was on that sunny morning that I decided to take a step further. I wanted to share something that weighed on my heart. The service began and, for a moment, I felt courage fill me. But when I opened my heart, it wasn't the welcome I expected. In fact, what I didn't know was that the words of support I received were just a facade. The truth was hidden behind smiles and hugs. And then the revelation came. When I read what she had written about me, the ground disappeared beneath my feet. She always wants to be the center of attention. It's hard to trust her. The phrases echoed in my mind like a cruel mantra. The weight of betrayal flooded my being. How could she think like that? How could someone who was so close to me see me with such distortion? In that moment, I realized that the pain did not just come from the words, but from the disillusionment of believing that the friendship was genuine in my mind. A storm was forming. I looked at the church, at the faces that were once familiar, and everything seemed like a big theater. No one knew what was going on inside me. No one knew that, behind the facade of faith and love, there was a wounded heart. But there was something else forming within me, a remnant of strength that I didn't know I possessed. Anger turned into determination. I could not let her opinion define who I am. On that day, I decided that I would no longer be an invisible servant. I was not what she said, and I needed to show that to myself. I learned that the truth is not always easy to accept, but it is also liberating. From that experience, I began to reconnect with my essence. I learned to filter what really mattered. The pain of rejection made me stronger. It made me seek out people who truly valued who I am. I no longer needed validation. The church was still a home, but now I was ready to be myself, unafraid to express my true identity. God knows what is in each person's heart. Amidst the silence and confusion, I found my voice. The betrayal of that friendship taught me the value of true love, a love that does not hide behind sharp words. I learned that even in pain, there is a chance for rebirth. Sometimes, the worst pain is not the betrayal itself, but realizing that the love we hoped for might just be a mirage. And that brought me peace. I became stronger, more authentic, and above all, freer. It is worth reflecting on this. How often do we let ourselves be defined by what others think of us? It's common, but it is time to break free. If this story resonated with you, remember that you are not alone. There is always a way back to yourself. What I didn't realize at the time was that by opening myself up to pain, I was also opening myself up to love, a love that is not measured by words or superficial gestures, but revealed in the small actions of everyday life. I began to pay attention to the people who truly cared, those who didn't need to try hard to show support, but were simply there because they wanted to be. Weeks passed and, instead of retreating into a cocoon of hurt, I decided to rebuild myself. On that sunny morning, while walking towards the church, a new perspective began to take shape within me. I looked at the space that once seemed so welcoming but now felt like a battlefield. Every face I saw reminded me of a piece of the pain I had faced, but it also reminded me of what I had learned. I spoke with people who, like me, had felt the weight of rejection, and discovered that I was not alone. They shared their stories, their struggles, and in each account, I saw a reflection of my own pain. Have you experienced this? A simple question, but one that carried immense weight. And there, in that space, the words of support were no longer a facade, they were genuine. At one of the gatherings, an older woman, who always seemed full of wisdom, said to me, "Pain is a harsh teacher, but it is a teacher worth having." Hearing this, I realized that although the betrayal had been painful, it had also given me a new lens to see the world through pain. I was beginning to understand what true friendship was. A friendship not based on appearances, but on the mutual acceptance of who we are. But there was still a shadow hovering over me. The words of my friend still echoed in my mind. Like a persistent echo that refused to disappear, it was as if I were fighting an invisible monster that followed me, always ready to remind me of my supposed failure. And in moments of solitude, I found myself questioning if there was really something wrong with me. Does this make sense to you? It was then that I decided it was time to confront this shadow. Instead of running away or hiding, I would seek the truth behind those words. I wrote a letter, not to send, but for myself. A letter where I would describe everything I felt, every tear shed, every moment of doubt. While writing, I realized that the pain was not what defined me, it was just a chapter in my story. That night, as the words flowed, I let anger and sadness transform into something else. The pages became a sacred space where I could be honest with myself. In the end, when I closed the notebook, a sense of relief washed over me. I had given voice to the pain, and that in itself was a big step. The days went by, and instead of feeling trapped in a cycle of hurt, I started to notice how beautiful life was, even in its imperfection. The blue sky seemed more vibrant. The laughter of children running through the park brought me an unexpected comfort. It was as if I was waking up to a new reality. And so, I decided that I would not let one person's betrayal overshadow the beauty of so many others around me. I began to seek new connections, opening up to people who had nothing to do with the church but were also seeking a sense of community. I discovered support groups where stories intertwined in a fabric of understanding and empathy. Many people feel exactly that. The pain I thought was solely mine now transformed into solidarity. At one of these meetings, I met a man who had gone through similar experiences. He talked to me about the importance of rising again and never letting others' opinions define our worth. You are unique, he said. And in his words, I felt a light ignite inside me. A light that had been dimmed by betrayal and pain, with each new friendship that emerged. I felt I was rebuilding not only my self-esteem, but also my faith in human relationships. What once hurt me was now turning into fuel for my journey of self-discovery. I allowed myself to make mistakes, allowed myself to feel, and above all, allowed myself to be vulnerable again. It was during this process of reconstruction that I realized true friendship is the one that withstands time and storms, the one that is not based on appearances, but on the genuine acceptance of who we are. I was no longer an invisible servant. I was a strong woman with a heart that beat for truth, love, and authenticity. And so, little by little, I was finding my place again. Not without pain, but with the courage to be myself. With each step, I distanced myself from the shadow of what I had been, and each new encounter brought a breath of hope. Life continued to teach me. The path wasn't linear. There were days when sadness returned, like a wave insisting to break on the shore. But now I knew how to swim. I learned to dive into the depths of my pain, to recognize and accept the emotions that emerged, without fear of drowning, because the truth is that pain did not define me, it just shaped me. One of those afternoons, while walking through a park, I saw children playing and families gathered. Their joy was contagious, and I felt an urge to join them, even if from a distance. I remembered how easy it was to find happiness in small things, like a friend's sincere laughter or the smell of fresh flowers. Does this make sense to you? The question echoed again, but now it came with a smile. I was beginning to understand that life was made of moments, not expectations. It was during one of those walks that I decided I needed to share my story. I felt there was something powerful in sharing what I had lived, something that could help other people facing their own battles. The idea of writing a blog started to take shape in my mind. A space where I could be authentic, where I could talk about betrayal, but also about recovery, about the love that still existed amidst the pain. However, the decision to expose my vulnerability was not easy. Insecurity whispered in my ear, what if no one cares? What if you are misinterpreted again? But, at the same time, there was a stronger voice, a voice that told me that fear could no longer control me. I was no longer willing to let other people's opinions define my worth. So I sat in front of the computer and, with a racing heart, I began to write. The words flowed from me like a river finally finding its way. Each paragraph was a release, an invitation for others to join me on the journey of healing. While writing about betrayal, I also spoke about true friendship, about the new connections I was forming, about how life continued to surprise me even after the pain. If you have gone through this, you will understand, I wrote, hoping that someone somewhere could feel seen and heard. The blog became a refuge, a place where I could express my emotions, and at the same time, a space for others to feel comfortable sharing their stories. The messages began to arrive, and I realized that I was not alone. A community was forming, united by similar experiences, where the pain became a bond of connection. Among the comments, a woman wrote, "I was also betrayed by someone I loved. Your story gave me hope." That phrase made me cry. It was as if the universe was telling me that what I was doing mattered. And so, little by little, I learned that even in the midst of pain, there was a purpose. I was helping others find themselves, just as I was doing. The blog grew. My words resonated in hearts that were ready to listen. I talked about the process of rebuilding, about how vulnerability was not a weakness, but a strength. How every tear shed was becoming a brick for building a new life. Pain is a stern teacher, but it is a teacher worth having. The wise woman's words echoed in my mind, and I repeated them to myself like a mantra. With each new post, I felt that I was getting closer to who I really am. The shadows of betrayal began to dissipate. I no longer saw myself as an invisible servant, but as a woman who had overcome challenges and found her voice. And by sharing my journey, I was also allowing others to do the same. One night, while writing, I received a message that changed everything. It was from a young woman who had distanced herself from the church because of painful experiences. She told me that after reading my blog, she decided it was time to reconnect. Tears ran down my face as I read her words. I didn't know that my story could impact someone in this way, and there, I realized that true friendship goes beyond the walls of the church. It can be found anywhere there is love and understanding. But, even with all this growth, there were days when the shadow still approached. In moments of loneliness, I wondered if the betrayal still had any power over me. And this is where things change, I thought, trying to find ways not to let those memories consume me. But the truth is that healing is not linear. It is a process that requires patience and self-love. And, even with all this growth, there were days when the shadow still approached. In moments of loneliness, I wondered if the betrayal still had any power over me. And this is where things change, I thought, trying to find ways not to let those memories consume me. But the truth is that healing is not linear. It is a process that requires patience and self-love. Sometimes, when looking in the mirror, I still saw the image of that insecure woman marked by pain and disillusionment. It was as if a distant echo reminded me of what I had suffered. I knew I needed to face these feelings, but the internal battle was intense. Does this make sense to you? That question echoed in my mind, bringing to the surface the need for understanding and acceptance. And it was in that moment of fragility that I decided to seek support again. Attending support groups became a refuge. In each meeting, I found people who, like me, were facing their own emotional storms. There was a comfort in sharing experiences, in hearing stories that resonated with mine. One woman in particular touched me deeply. She had lost faith in herself after a similar betrayal. Her words, laden with pain, intertwined with mine, creating a space of empathy and acceptance. If you have ever experienced something like this, you will understand how difficult it is to trust again, she said, and at that moment, I realized that vulnerability was not a weakness but a bridge that united us. Time passed, and I began to notice that the shadow that once oppressed me started to dissipate. The memories of the betrayal did not disappear, but I learned to navigate them more lightly. Instead of feeling trapped by them, I began to see each memory as a part of my story, a piece of the puzzle that made me who I am. It's worth reflecting on this. How many times do we let the past define our present? This reflection became a constant on my journey. On one of those afternoons of reflection, while walking through the park, I saw a child playing with a balloon. The sparkle in her eyes was contagious, and I realized that happiness could be found in the little things. Life had much to offer, even when the pain seemed overwhelming. I decided that I wouldn't let one person's betrayal overshadow the beauty around me. I began to open myself up to new experiences, to allow myself to be happy again, even if in small doses. It was during one of these walks that I met a woman who would become a valuable friend. She was sitting on a bench, reading a book, and something about her smile caught my attention. We started talking and quickly discovered that we had a lot in common. Thus, we created a connection that strengthened over time. It was a relief to find someone who understood the complexity of the emotions I was facing. A lot of people feel exactly that, she said, and I knew we were creating a safe space for each other. With time, this friendship transformed into a fundamental support in my life. We would meet regularly, sharing not only our challenges but also our achievements. Each laugh, each deep conversation, became another brick in the construction of a new foundation of trust. I was finally learning to open my heart again, to believe that true friendships are not based on appearances but on authenticity and acceptance. But even with this new friendship, there were days when the past still insisted on visiting me. In moments of solitude, I found myself reliving the cruel words of my former friend. It was a cycle that seemed endless. And this is where things change. I repeated to myself, remembering that change requires time and compassion. I learned that instead of fighting these memories, I could embrace them as part of my healing process. It was then that I decided to adopt a new habit, the practice of gratitude. I began writing daily about the things I was grateful for. It was a simple but transformative exercise. Each day, I found small blessings that previously went unnoticed: the sunlight coming through the window, the taste of fresh coffee, and even the smile of a stranger on the street. "Have you gone through this?" the question returned, but now accompanied by a smile that reflected the new perspective I was cultivating. Over time, I realized that gratitude began to change my way of seeing the world. The shadows of betrayal did not completely disappear, but now they were just a part of my story. I was no longer bound by them. I was learning to dance with both pain and joy, recognizing that both could coexist. And so, with each new day, I allowed myself to be light, even when the memories were heavy. My blog continued to grow, and I realized that by sharing my journey, I was also helping others to rediscover themselves. The messages I received were full of gratitude and identification, and that gave me a new purpose. Each story I told seemed to resonate with someone who was going through a similar experience, and I felt that there was transformative power in exposing my vulnerability. Does this make sense to you now? This question was no longer an echo of insecurity but an invitation to connect. With each new post, I delved deeper into my own story. I began to explore not only the betrayal but also the lessons I learned along the way. Pain was no longer a burden to be carried, it was a source of wisdom. I wrote about how true love does not hide in the shadows but shines brightly in the small actions of daily life. And by doing so, I was also learning to recognize those small lights around me. Once, a young woman wrote to me saying she was about to give up on everything. She had drifted away from the church, just like I had, and felt that there was no more hope. I didn't know how to help her, but I decided to send her a message sharing my own journey of pain and recovery. I talked about the moments when I felt lost, but also about how I found my way back. At the end, I wrote, "Pain is not the end. It is just a part of your story." When she replied, her words were full of gratitude. I didn't know anyone could understand so well. In that moment, I realized my story was a beacon for others. The blog became a space where pain and healing coexisted. Each time I posted, I felt like I was building an invisible bond with everyone who read my words. And, even on days when the shadow of betrayal tried to reach me, I had a support network that helped me get back up. A lot of people feel exactly this. That phrase became a mantra among us, a reminder that we were not alone in our struggles. The interactions I had with the readers started to teach me about the strength of community. On a sunny afternoon, I decided to organize a small gathering for those who wanted to share their stories. The idea was simple, a safe space where we could open up, listen, and support each other. When the day arrived, I was nervous. What if no one shows up? That insecurity still haunted me, but the voice of courage inside of me was stronger. To my surprise, the gathering was a success. People of different ages and backgrounds came together, and the exchange of experiences was profound. What began as a timid conversation soon turned into an open and sincere dialogue. Everyone shared their struggles, their victories, and, most importantly, the quest for a place where they could be truly accepted. I realized there was immense power in collective vulnerability. If you've ever experienced something like this, you'll understand how liberating it is, and there, in that environment, I could see how much pain can unite people. With each encounter, I felt like I was taking steps towards a new way of living. What was once a burden was becoming a source of strength. I was allowing myself to feel, but I was also learning to transform that pain into something positive. It's worth reflecting on this. How can we use our experiences to help others? This question echoed in my mind, generating a growing desire to do more. Over time, I realized that healing was not a destination, but a continuous journey. There were days when memories would come back forcefully, like waves crashing on the beach. But now I knew how to swim. I had learned to surf through emotional storms, to find beauty even in the most turbulent waves. And in each moment of fragility, I reminded myself that I was not alone. The community I had created around me was a fortress of love and understanding. With each new friendship that formed, I felt stronger. I discovered that true love is not based on appearances or expectations but on mutual acceptance. One of the new friends I made, Clara, had gone through similar painful experiences. We quickly connected, and the conversations we had were deep and transformative. Pain is a stern teacher, but it's a teacher worth having, she used to say, and I couldn't agree more. Together, we began to explore the idea that pain could be a starting point for something greater. When I decided to participate in a spiritual retreat, Clara went with me. It was an opportunity to disconnect from the routine and reconnect with my essence. During those days, I was able to reflect on everything I had lived through. The meditations and group activities helped me see life from a new perspective. Does this make sense to you? The question raised during those days of retreat. I felt the layers of pain I had accumulated begin to unravel. The nature around us, with its immense trees and the sound of the wind, seemed to whisper promises of healing. It was as if each deep breath I took was a step towards freedom. It's worth reflecting on this. How many times do we let life take us away from what really matters? This question echoed in my mind as I allowed myself to feel the peace around me. The group activities became moments of profound connection, sharing our stories of pain and overcoming with strangers who, in fact, were souls seeking understanding. Was like opening a window to the light. Each story seemed like a thread that united us, weaving an invisible web of empathy and love. When an older woman shared her experience of betrayal and the journey of regaining her faith, I realized that I was not alone in this quest. Have you gone through this? The question I had asked so many times now transformed into a bond of solidarity. One night, as we gathered around a campfire, Clara and I exchanged knowing glances. It was a magical moment, where the flames danced and the stars shone brightly. I shared how betrayal had taught me to value true friendships, and Clara, with her sweet demeanor, reminded me that pain can also be a catalyst for transformation. Pain is a harsh teacher, but it's a teacher worth having, she repeated, and we laughed, knowing that even amidst pain, there was beauty to be found. In the days that followed, I began to open up to new practices that could help me maintain this connection to my essence. Meditation became a powerful ally. I learned to observe my thoughts, to let emotions flow without judging them. When doubt or sadness arose, I embraced them as part of the process. Does this make sense to you? I would ask myself, while allowing vulnerability to become a strength. The retreat came to an end, but the transformation that had begun within me was palpable. Upon returning to the city, I brought with me not only memories, but also a renewed commitment to seek authenticity in all aspects of my life. The blog continued to be a space of expression, but now I was ready to share not only the scars but also the flowers that were beginning to bloom amid the pain. As the days went by, I realized that the experiences that once paralyzed me were now fuel for my journey. Each new post became an opportunity to explore not just the pain of betrayal, but also the lessons I had learned about friendship, love, and resilience. If you've been through this, you'll understand how every tear can transform into strength, I wrote, trying to encourage those who felt lost. Interacting with my readers became a source of inspiration. Each message received was like a gift, a confirmation that my voice was reaching hearts that needed to hear it. One young woman, in particular, wrote to me saying that she decided to reconnect with her family after reading about my journey of reconciliation. I cried as I read her words. It was as if every tear I had shed was now being transformed into hope for others. The conversations I had with Clara deepened more and more. We talked about our experiences, but also about our dreams and desires. It was a foundation of support that helped me face the darkest days. In one of our conversations, she told me, life is made of connections, and every true friendship is a light in the midst of darkness. And, at that moment, I realized that every friendship I cultivated was helping me create a safe space to be myself. Weeks passed, and I allowed myself to explore new hobbies and interests that had been put aside during the phase of pain. Painting became a refuge. I began to express my emotions in colors, allowing the pain to transform into art. When the colors mixed on the canvas, it was as if I were releasing the feelings that had previously imprisoned me. Does this make sense to you? I asked myself, as I watched my soul manifest through the brush strokes. Over time, the pain of betrayal became a part of my story, but no longer the main chapter. I learned to see the beauty in the scars, to understand that each of them told a story of overcoming, and so I allowed myself to live fully. Laughter once again became part of my daily life, and I allowed myself to be happy in the little things, like having coffee with friends or taking a walk under the sun. One afternoon, while walking through a park, I spotted a group of people gathering for a picnic. An impulse led me over. As I approached, I was welcomed by warm smiles and curious looks. It was a group of people of different ages, sharing stories and laughter, and, in that moment, I realized that life still had much to offer. Have you ever experienced this? The question echoed again, but now, it wasn't a reflection on pain. It was a question that reminded me of the beauty of human connection. The atmosphere was filled with joy and warmth, and I knew that there was a safe space there. I decided to join them, and as I sat on a towel spread over the grass, I began to listen to each one's stories. It was fascinating how each person there had their own battles but also their victories. An older woman, with a smile that lit up her face, shared how she had overcome a betrayal in her youth. "Pain can teach us to value true love," she said, and her words resonated deeply within me. It was as if each story reminded me that I was not alone in my journey. As we talked, I realized that the pain that once isolated me now became a bond of connection. Many people feel exactly that. This phrase became a mantra among us, and each one shared their experiences, creating a space of empathy and understanding. What was once a burden now became fuel for unity. I was surrounded by people who understood life's complexity, and that brought me a sense of belonging that I thought I had lost. As the sun began to set, the conversation grew deeper. A young man, who had been quiet until then, decided to share the pain he was carrying. He spoke of how he felt lost after a painful breakup, and his words echoed my own story. And this is where things change. I thought, feeling that vulnerability was breaking down barriers between us. Everyone there was willing to listen, to offer support. And this made me feel that true friendship could arise anywhere, even among strangers. That picnic became a milestone in my life. At the end of the afternoon, we exchanged phone numbers and promised to meet again. That experience taught me that shared pain can be transformed into hope, and that, even in dark moments, there is always light to be found. Thus, I returned home with a light heart, remembering that life is made up of moments like that, small but significant ones. In the following days, I continued to connect with the people I met at that picnic. We started meeting regularly, and with each meeting, I felt like I was building a new support network. It was as if, slowly, I was rebuilding the trust I had lost. It's worth reflecting on this. How can we find support in unexpected places? This question stayed with me, and the answer became increasingly clear. One afternoon, as I walked to one of our meetings, a feeling of gratitude washed over me. I had gone through so many hardships, but now I was surrounded by people who genuinely cared. Life had gifted me new friendships that blossomed amidst the chaos. Does this make sense to you? The question was no longer about insecurity, but about the beauty of the transformation I was experiencing. Time passed and, with it, I allowed myself to explore new facets of myself. I began to get involved in activities that I previously did not have the courage to try. The group decided to organize a retreat, this time not just to reflect on pains, but to celebrate victories. It was an opportunity to create joyful memories together, away from the shadows of the past. And when the day arrived, I was excited, ready to dive into new experiences. During the retreat, we had moments of meditation, outdoor activities, and most importantly, time to share our stories of overcoming challenges. The connection that had formed among us was palpable, and by the end of the weekend, I felt stronger than ever. One of the most remarkable moments was when, in a circle, each of us had the opportunity to speak about what we had learned. Pain is a severe teacher, but it is a teacher that is worth it, I said, and saw smiles of understanding around me. When we went back home, I knew I was no longer alone. The loneliness that once accompanied me was now just a distant memory. The community that had formed around us had become an essential support in my life, and as I reflected on everything I had experienced, I realized that my healing journey was just beginning. every friendship I cultivated was a new opportunity for growth and love, I decided it was time to further expand this support network. I began organizing monthly gatherings where we could meet to share not only our pains, but also our achievements. What once was a space of vulnerability was now becoming a place of celebration. But what really matters is that we are here together, I said during these meetings. With each gathering, a new story emerged, and each account became a brick in the construction of a space symbolizing acceptance and understanding. Laughter mingled with tears, and there, in the midst of vulnerability, I realized that shared pain truly had the power to transform. One of the participants, Anna, always arrived with a smile, but I knew that behind that facade there was a silent battle. At one of our meetings, she finally opened up. I distanced myself from my family because I couldn't deal with the pain of betrayal. But here, I feel like I can be myself, she said, and her words touched each one of us. It was as if, by sharing her truth, she lit a light in everyone present. And at that moment, I realized that the strength of a group goes beyond what we can imagine. If you've ever experienced something like this, you'll understand how liberating it is to find a safe space, I replied, feeling the connection grow even stronger. These meetings have become not only a way to share stories but a place where hope flourished. We began planning community activities, something that would unite us even more. It was an invitation to look outward, beyond our own pain. It's worth reflecting on this. How can we help those who are also facing their battles? I questioned, and the answer emerged naturally among us. Organizing a charity event seemed to be the next step. When we decided that the event would be a food drive for a local charity organization, we felt the energy rise. The idea of contributing to something bigger motivated us, and everyone began bringing their skills to the table. Clara, who always had a talent for crafts, offered to create decorations, while others began planning the logistics. Does this make sense to you? I thought while watching the transformation of pain into action. The day of the event arrived, and the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The venue was decorated with Clara's creations, and the tables were filled with donations. Several community members joined us, and what began as a small support group expanded into a network of love and solidarity. When I saw Anna and other friends talking and laughing, I felt a wave of gratitude. A lot of people feel exactly this, and suddenly, we were all part of something bigger. One of the children who attended the event approached me. She was holding a package of food and, with a pure smile, said to me, "Thank you for helping." That small phrase made me realize that change is not limited to what happens in our personal lives. The pain I had experienced was now transforming into something beautiful, an act of love that reverberated in the lives of others. Does this make sense to you? I thought while observing the joy on her face. While the event continued, the stories began to flow again. One of the participants, a young man named Lucas, shared his experience of overcoming after being rejected by his friends. Betrayal hurts, but I found the strength to move forward. Meeting you all helped me realize that I'm not alone, he said, and his words resonated with me. It was as if, by sharing his pain, he was also offering us a gift of hope. With each new story, I felt that the support network we were building was becoming stronger. The event was a success, and we left the charity with full hearts and empty hands. When the day ended, we all gathered to reflect on what had happened. It's worth reflecting on this, how pain can unite us in the pursuit of a greater purpose. I asked, and the responses came in the form of smiles and knowing glances. As the weeks passed and the meetings continued, something extraordinary began to happen. People who were once strangers started to become friends, and each of us was learning to open our hearts once more. Vulnerability, which once seemed like a weakness, now transformed into a powerful strength capable of uniting and healing. If you've ever experienced something like this, you'll understand how friendship can emerge from the ashes of pain, I said, feeling that we were finally creating a space of genuine love. And so, as life continued to teach me, I realized that the healing journey had no end. It was a path full of discoveries, of ups and downs, but above all, it was a journey worth living. In each new meeting, I saw the sparkle in people's eyes and felt that we were all together in this quest for true love and friendships that would last. It was during this process that I decided it was time to further expand this support network. The desire to help other people who were going through similar experiences was growing inside me, And here is where things become even more meaningful. The idea of creating a formal support group began to take shape in my mind. A dedicated space where we could not only share our experiences, but also offer resources and mutual support for those who felt lost, just as I had felt. I knew that there were many people who needed a safe place to be heard, and the passion to help began to transform into a concrete project. I talked to Clara and other friends about the idea, and everyone was excited. The energy in the air was contagious. It's worth reflecting on this. How can our experiences become a beacon for others? I thought as the plans came to life, together, we decided that the group would be called Paths of Light, a name that symbolized each of our journeys in search of healing and connection. We started meeting weekly, and each meeting became an opportunity for growth and learning. Does this make sense to you? I asked, and the faces around me lit up with smiles. The group became a welcoming space where we could discuss not just the pain but also the victories, the small achievements that often went unnoticed. With each shared story, trust grew, and what was once a burden became a source of collective strength. During our meetings, we began inviting speakers and therapists to talk about topics that interested us, such as self-care, resilience, and the importance of forgiveness. It was amazing to see how each new perspective added a layer of understanding to our journey. One night, a therapist said, "Pain can be a catalyst for change, but the choice of how to respond to that pain is always ours." Her eyes shined with the wisdom that came from experience, and I knew that those words would echo in our minds for a long time. Gradually, Paths of Light became more than a support group. It was a vibrant community, a place where pain and hope coexisted. And so, I realized that each of us was transforming not just into survivors, but into agents of change in our own lives and in the lives of others. Before you leave, do two things now. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive upcoming messages. And share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. To continue, watch the next video. It is already in the cards and also in the description.